Hello, this is Mad Cat, and today's just kind of an impromptu video. Don't really have any plans for this, but I just kind of wanted to talk about my reaction to Scott Baio. I'm going to load up the YouTube chat on my cell phone. Uh, Hopefully, one of these days, I'm going to get cell phone service. Um, Long story about that, but uh, good to have Wi-Fi though. All right, so while I'm loading this up, there we go. So I labeled this as Me
While I'm
Too.
loading this up.
I labeled this as Me Too, Scott Baio, Me Too, because I don't know the full story behind this. And when Me Too came out, I pretty much was dealing with figuring out what I was going to do as far as being in a homeless shelter. It might have come out before that, but I was needing a place to live and dealing with all the trouble that I had in the last 6 months of 2017. I mean, I knew what it was, I just didn't really get into it. So there's just a lot about that I don't really know about. But the sense that I got was that a lot of women use the Me Too hashtag to talk about some of the um, sexual misconduct that they've experienced, sexual assault, rapes that they've experienced. And, that's fine that they did that, and this came about after someone came forward about Harvey Weinstein. Apparently, Harvey Weinstein had, over the years, had slept with a number of actresses uh, to the point that some were coerced, some were actually raped. And while there's no evidence to support that, um, I saw something mentioned about it, like 30 Rock even made jokes about it. Like um, the lead actress for their pretend show on 30 Rock said that she was able to not have sex with Harvey Weinstein 3 out of the 5 times she met him. And it was displayed as a joke, but it's like people knew about this. People knew about this for a very long time, and yet it took one woman to come forward about it, and then everyone wanted to come forward. And this eventually spread that everyone wanted to talk about their experience, which is fine. That's fine to do. It's great to be able to reach out to people, but then the false accusations started. And this reminds me of a conversation I had with Hannah Wallen once. I think it was like rallies like Save the Night or whatever, and women would get up on the microphone and discuss their experiences that they had about being raped. And she told me that one of the problems with these events is that women would feel compelled to get up there and say something. They wanted to be a part of the experience, and they would end up lying. They would say, "Oh yeah, I was raped," even if they weren't, just so they could be a part of the group. And that's what it feels like Me Too was all about. Anyone else so tempted to say Mewtwo? I don't know. I'm not a Pokemon fan. Um, Guys, stop saying. Still working on that. So what ends up happening is that so many people are using the Me Too hashtag, talking about incidents that was a misconstrued of what actually happened or was completely false. And then there's a lot of attack on various celebrities. And some of it seems to be justified, as in the cases of George Takei. But the funny part about George Takei is he's openly admitted some of his transgressions in the past and was always laughed off of. Haha, oh, that funny gay Asian guy. He's so cool. He's on uh oh, I can't think of that guy's name. Howard Stern. So, it was passable. Ooh, I got some comments. Warped Reflection, good to see you again. I only saw one woman, a model, went to the police about him. The rest took the fame and fortune talking about Harvey Weinstein. And yeah, that was the thing about Harvey Weinstein is for what, 20, 30, 40 years, these women, rather than report, and I do think Harvey Weinstein is guilty. Um, but it disgusts me these women who decided to take the fame and fortune and let anyone else go there, and then the next girl becomes the victim of Harvey Weinstein, and instead of going and talking to the police, they just take the fame and fortune, and that's all they kept doing down the line. And the only reason they're coming forward now is because it's the popular thing to do. Matt, he says, "You stink. I'm all on your side and everything, but you stink. Only because you don't suffer in silence." I don't know how to. I don't know if that's directed at me or victim starring in Iron Man. Uh, I don't know if that's an attack on me or a joke on me or referring to something I'm specifically saying. I don't understand the context, Matt, but thank you for commenting and thank you for watching. So yeah, celebrities are now starting to be attacked, and James Franco, for example, is a classic one. Aziz Azari, I mean, he's being attacked for having a good date. I mean, it was completely consensual, and yet a woman still complains. Oh, he's such a great guy, and it was a great date and all, but I didn't say he could fuck me in the ass, so it was rape. I said yes to everything else, but I didn't say yes to that. So, um, and I don't like Aziz. He's just basically a male feminist, in my opinion. But I don't like what's happening to him. That he's going through the ringer for having done everything right, doing what women want, and they still complain. I don't know the full story about James Franco, but it's suggesting that it's full of shit. And I only knew about Scott Baio today because I was watching TV with my mother. We are watching some TiVo thing, and something popped up at the end of something we were watching, and it was about Scott Baio making a video, which I think came out yesterday, about his innocence. Oh, Matt, I guess he's talking about Harvey Weinstein. They suck a dick for a role. They're not victims. They're ambitious. And it's always joked about sleeping your way to the top. And I think there was an episode of Friends about this where Joey Tribbiani was offered a role on General Hospital, but he had to sleep with like the casting manager, and he like had such reservations about doing this. Like, if I ever make it, will I ever know it was really because of my skill or because of my other skill? He ended up doing it, but yeah, it's always been joked about, but it's true. People really did sleep their way to the top. So I agree with you there, Matt. So let's talk about Scott Baio. All right. Scott Baio, I guess, has been dealing with this for a couple of years now. Um, I said there again. I'll just start slapping myself every time I do. So Scott Baio has been dealing with this for a couple of years, and it started with his not a co-star, but someone who guest appeared on Charles in Charge. I guess it was a girlfriend or something. And the accusation is that he touched her in inappropriate ways and he had sex with her on the set of Charles in Charge, or I guess maybe not directly on the set, but somewhere in the studio, and that she was underage at the time. Now, in a lot of these instances, we have a he said, she said sort of thing. And I don't know if Scott Baio is really telling the truth on all of this. However, what I like about Scott Baio is first he's like, look, you got evidence, you go to the police. In fact, his lawyers told their lawyers, it's like, you got evidence, go to the police. If if this really happened and she can, feels that this is something that Scott Baio should be punished for, go to the police. He's just like, um, and I agree with that there. And that's the one thing I've never truly understand is like, if it's just such a bad thing, why hasn't anyone gone to the police about this? And yes, I know that there's extenuating circumstances of why a rape victim doesn't go to the police about it. And I, being a survivor of rape, I never went to the police about what happened to me, mostly because I was too young at the time. But I'll be 38 this year, and it happened when I was 8 years old. It was 30 years ago. What happened. It's past. It's done. I've moved on with my life. I'm not going to suddenly go to the police and report it now. And the way this world is now, I mean, I could, but what purpose would it serve? And then it would come down to a he said, she said, because it was a female who did it. So, I've accepted what happened in my life and I moved on. And in this instance, we're talking about something that basically happened over 30 years ago. And she's she basically reached out, or I guess her lawyers reached out to Scott Baio. His lawyers responded to them, go to the police if something happened. Matt continues talking. They love when a powerful rich man fondles them up and shit. They go to the police when their career is over. It's a farce. We can all see it. And it's certainly possible, but as I said, I do think Harvey Weinstein is guilty. I mean, it's just an instinct I have, but at the same time, I think all of these women who stayed silent all of these years, knowing what happened, are just as guilty. I think they should all be punished. Warped reflection. I understand that not going to police but to accuse men online in public just to makes them look like lying cunts, which I think the majority are. And that's something that Scott Baio talks in his response video. He did it on Facebook Live. And he said that, this person, I forget her name offhand. I have a bad memory and I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. My disability. Scott Baio says, well, instead of going to the police or going to the proper authorities, takes it to the court of public appeal, goes to social media to try to talk about this, goes to news organizations to talk about this. Oh, poor me. But here's the thing that I like, and this is why I was going back with the he said, she said sort of thing, is, we've heard her side of the story, I guess. I haven't really investigated all of this, but we've heard her side of the story. And I guess a lot of people want to cast blame on Scott Baio for this. And this has been going on for some time. However, what I love what Scott Baio did is that he demonstrated his innocence. He didn't just say, hey, I didn't do it and you should just believe me because, which a lot of these women are doing, saying, I got raped, I got sexually assaulted, you have to believe me because I'm a woman. They may not all directly say that, but it's basically the sentiment of, you have to believe me because I'm a woman, and uses the cognitive dissonance of, why would I lie about this? Well, then begs the question, why did you keep your mouth shut about it for so long? Why are you only now doing it when it seems to be popular to do it. And Scott Baio was able to demonstrate that he's innocent, but not by saying, "Hey, I didn't do it, just believe me." He demonstrated it. And if you go, you have to check out the video. I should have posted it down below. I apologize I didn't, but just look up Scott Baio Facebook Live, or Scott Baio responds to accusations. Just real quick, Matt says, "Yeah, it's sad, but when every proven false accusation, the real victim becomes reputable." And that's a point that Scott Baio made, and I'll respond to that near the end. Um, he says, "Victim sucking dick to be cast as Penelope Wilson, Commodore of the Andromeda." I don't know what that is. Hmm. Penelope? Maybe I don't know. So Scott Baio first says, "Well, here's this interview in Yahoo News, where she's saying, 'Oh yeah, I would love to work with Scott Baio again.'" So he demonstrates that, she's been in interviews over the years. She's always given Scott Baio such praise, that I said again, and gave him such praise, and if given the opportunity, would work with him again. And then he started going through the letters that he had, giving this incident, and even referred to stuff that he received from Dr. Oz, the TV show on ABC, I think it is, and also from TMZ. Now, in both instances, they at first did not, it basically said that it was, all fabricated. But in the case of Dr. Oz, it was, they they were like, "Well, can you answer these specific questions?" And they were asking pretty horrific questions. They were asking leading questions of, "We think you're guilty. Can you demonstrate that you're not guilty?" And it's the mindset of guilty until proven innocent when it comes to sexual assault cases that women are claiming happened to them. It's sad, but it's what things are. So they responded, and they used all of the evidence that he presented in this video, and Dr. Oz backed down, and eventually TMZ backed down. They're like, "We don't want anything to do with this because all of the evidence supports Scott Baio's innocence. She has presented nothing to demonstrate except maybe an eyewitness at the time, but even that's a bit flaky, from over 30 years ago." And that's a very telling thing, that they see the evidence like, "Oh, we don't want to do it now." Before it was like, "Oh yeah, let's get Scott Baio on here and we can attack him." I'm like, "Why are you such an evil shitlord?" And then it's like, "Oh, all of this evidence here, no, 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 we're sorry, we don't want to do it anymore." And that's a very telling thing right there. Matt says, "Fact is, women have all the rights they have for 2,000 years. And then in addition, they get all of the Ben's rights as well. Then call in 6, 7 days a month to earn point 0.8 and spend 1.7. I don't know about all of that. That's a debatable issue, but not necessarily for this video. Warped reflections. My son's mate in army was being harassed by some women in his regiment. He gave in and gave her a pity fuck despite other women and men telling him to avoid the batshit bitch. He's just been cleared of rape accusations she made against him, and he's looking into suing her." Oh man, that's awful, but I'm not surprised. And certainly I've been accused of rape as well, in my life. And fortunately, no one really believed it, but it was still tough to deal with. So, all right, where was I? So, some of the evidence that he had, he proved it very logically. He played a couple of clips of her talking about the experience, but one clip in particular, she's basically going on about how, who she lost her virginity to. And she's saying she lost it to Scott Baio, but only because she was dating another guy. So she basically cheated on her boyfriend. That's a good character reference right there. But she did so because she did not want to be a virgin for her boyfriend at the time. She wanted the sex experience to be as good as possible. So she decided to give up her virginity to Scott Baio, invited him over, and had sex. And Scott Baio confirms that this happened. However, what she had said was that this happened, um, that Charles in Charge had been over for many years, or it had been over for a long time. And Scott Baio used that information and demonstrate, well, one, she's born in 1972. The last episode she appeared in was 1990. And by that time, she would have been 18 years old. You could argue, well, maybe she was 17, or, I don't know. But even then, if the show had been over, even at least by a year, maybe it was 2 or 3 years. And Scott didn't provide an exact date when that happened, the interaction that he had sex with her. But then who really remembers specific dates of when you had sex 30 years ago? Um, but he demonstrated that by her own admission from an interview from years ago, the first time they had sex, she would have been over age. So this idea that she was raped by him or had sex with him as a minor at when he's an adult is completely untrue, at least by the evidence he's presented. And like I said, he could still be guilty of this. He something could have happened. The problem is that he's not, like I said, not saying only focus on my words, don't believe anyone else. He's using her own words against her. Okay, so Matt, he's just really talking up a storm. Not that I don't mind. Uh, they do spend like drunk sailors, marble tile heated from underneath. Sorry, Matt, you seem to be talking a lot of gibberish. I don't understand the context of what you're talking about here. Oh, I go out and make sales call. So give me 500K a year. I'll be broke anyway, so give me as much as possible. When this house is finished, I will sell it because there's nothing I like more than ordering men around and renovate my new property. Now, excuse me, I have to go to work for 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day that I work. It's general misogyny. Hmm. Now, what I'm happy about in all of this is Scott Baio has proved his innocence. Unless she can produce some sort of evidence that something happened, and maybe the sex didn't happen back then, or maybe she's using a loose definition of sex that while penetration didn't happen, something else happened, or maybe he fucked her in the ass. Um, so that way she maintained her virginity. There's a lot of possibilities there. However, without properly defining anything, without giving a lot of details about anything, he's he's used her words to demonstrate that she's basically lying right now. And yeah, I'm sure there's no evidence being over 30 years old. And we're talking about when she was underage and she was 18 at the last filming that she was on, then I mean, yeah, there's probably not going to be any evidence. And it's hard enough to prove that rape happens the day after. How are you supposed to prove it 30 years later? And certainly with laws in California where you can charge anyone for rape no matter how long it happened. It could be 100 years ago. and you can still make an accusation about it. You can still go to the police to report it. But there's no statute of limitations when it comes to a rape charge. And yet, this individual who might well be believed because she's in Hollywood or whatever, the police would go and investigate it, try to find evidence to see if this is possible, take eyewitness testimony, look at all of the facts for that. She did it. She went to social media. Uh, Dade L. Murphy saying, good to see me and that I have a nice trim. Yeah, I had a date the other night. So actually, no, it was yesterday night. So I wanted to look good. I'll talk about that date in a future video, probably within the next few days. It was a true egalitarian date, which I think is worthy to talk about. Now, what was it that Matt had said earlier? I'm looking real quick. He had said something I wanted to touch up on. Uh, yes, the less reputable part. Slap myself again for saying You should have like a slap counter every time I slap myself. It's just like ding, ding, ding. I don't know how to do that live though. So near the end, Scott Baio made a very valid point that the problem with all of these accusations being thrown around, and some of them are more than likely legitimate, but probably the majority of them are completely false. That people are just like, yeah, if I'm a Hollywood actress who's irrelevant and I want to make myself relevant again and put myself in the news so I can be, people pay attention to me and maybe I'll get guest speaking spots where I can get paid for it, then yeah, I can say, oh, yeah, I was on a series like 30 years ago when I was underage and I got touched. Because how can you prove or disprove it didn't happen? It's a he said, she said. However, she's dumb enough to think that she wouldn't get caught with this. It's like Anita Sarkeesian. She's saying, oh, I've been a gamer all my life, except she did a video that came out saying, well, I had to learn a lot about video games to make this video. I'm not really a gamer. If you're going to go out there and um, make a statement about something that happened and you've gone out there and made statements to the contrary in the past, then, don't do it. All it does is make you look like a liar. That if it happened, which I seriously doubt, I believe Scott Baio, but if it did happen, we now have her saying something completely different in other formats and other interviews. Check the fuse box. I think Matt is insulting me again. He knows guys like this make me sick. He knows everything but continues with the charade. Mad Cat, isn't it more honorable to kill yourself? Again, I need context. I don't know where you're going with this. So, the problem here is that if there's an actual case where someone was violated, believed. Someone's told me that Steven Seagal is going to be has been accused. Now, throughout the years, I've heard a lot about Steven Seagal, and there might be actual truth that maybe he did do it. I've been hearing these kind of stories throughout the years. I don't really know. I don't really have an opinion on it. The problem is Scott Baio has demonstrated that it's false, that it cannot be true. So now when I look at Steven Seagal, my first instinct is to believe that it's false. And that's the way it should be. It should be false and, yeah, innocent until proven guilty. However, it's going to go much in a different direction, that because so many have come forward to make accusations. Hell, even the Bill Cosby thing, maybe he did it. I don't know. But like 40 women coming forward, and not once over the years had anyone else come forward about it. That this is the first we hear that he did this over 40 years with what, 40 women or 100 women? I don't know. But so many of them were thrown out because it was proven that it would have been impossible for him to actually have done it. And it's like everyone's expecting, like if they make a accusation of rape, no one's going to fact check them. And you can kind of blame Anita Sarkeesian for the listen and believe mantra. Let's see. Is there a way I can give a wrench to date on the cell phone here? Channel report remove. Put. Nope. Remind me to give a wrench to date in the future. All right. So I the Me Too campaign. I see why it was important. I do remember hearing early on in the campaign is that men tried to use the hashtag Me Too to report some of the problems they had, and women were quite angry about this. Feminists were angry about this because, well, this is just about the victimhood of women. Men are not allowed to be victims, or men are not allowed to use the hashtag Me Too. And this was just a way to demonstrate female victimhood, and it just grew too large. And now we're getting all these false accusations, and it's very sad. Matt saying, yes, give him a wrench. Then your comments drop by 50%. Actually, Matt, since you're doing the majority of the comments, I think the comments will drop much more than 50%, probably by 75%. I'm happy that people are fighting back. I'm happy that Scott Baio, is able to keep a calmness about this, is able to use logic, not engage in the emotional side of all of this. And a lot of people are thinking that this is going to spell the end for the social justice warrior movement. This is going to spell the end for the feminist movement. That they put all their eggs in this one basket, and it's grown beyond their control. And now all of these false accusations are going around, and people are coming forward and saying, oh, these are not true. Here's my proof to demonstrate it. Oh, these women are lying. And it's going to probably start revealing that more and more and more women are lying. Now, understandably, rape happens. Rape happens for men, well, for men and women in equal numbers. This has been demonstrated. This has been shown in statistical analysis. Kathy Young demonstrated this by reanalyzing the 2010 CDC report on sexual rape and sexual assault, that it happens in equal numbers. However, those who actually do commit these heinous acts don't even represent 1% of our population, or 1% of 1% of our population. That it's just a small subset of human beings that are guilty of doing this. And those individuals need to be punished to the full extent of the law. However, given what we can do with social media, given how we can decide someone is guilty just because a woman says so, it's going to hurt victims. And this is what's always baffled me, is that feminists should be angry at anyone that makes a false accusation. because it actually hurts their cause. They should be much more harsh on these women who make false accusations than the men's activists are. And yet they're not. The exact opposite happens. The UVA rape case, Jackie, I believe her name was. I believe that the National Organization of Women still believe that she's telling the truth, even though it's been demonstrated she is lying. They still hold that she's a rape victim. I believe they gave Emma Sokowitz like Woman of the Year or something, even though it's been demonstrated that she lied about it, that it's false. It's like feminists double down when it comes to false rape accusations as these women are victims. And more so, in stop saying in other cases where it's demonstrated that women are lying, they make up excuses of, well, it's not their fault. You know, they were pressured into doing it, or they didn't want to break up with their boyfriend, or it's the patriarchy that forces them to lie. Oh wow, Matt, he's really going all at it. Dade is chock full of coquetry. He is brimming with wrench ambition. This is why I hate these kind of guys. He lives in casts for 2 years, then suddenly decides to comment. He says that I'm more than 50, whatever. Hope your fat, stinky, pussy feminist throws you out, and you're homeless again. You honestly deserve it. Hmm. Yeah, I think he's a troll. Oh, well, Matt, go ahead and troll all you want. That's the last thing I'll read of you. But be sure to post a comment down below. It gives me more attention. So I like what Scott Baio has done. I'm liking that people are coming back and it's like, no, this is not true. These women are wrong. And we now even have Donald Trump, the asshole that I hate a lot, saying he's not a feminist. So, as I've always said, things get worse before they get better. And in these instances, this is feminists at its worst. They're doubling down. They're really trying to dig into the trenches. They know they're losing and they're holding what cards they have left. Even the fact that these cards actually don't give them anything, they're holding onto them for dear life, saying, we're victims, we're victims, we're victims, even when they're not. Even when we've demonstrated that they're not. And truth be told, feminism doesn't need to exist anymore. I'm still for the advocacy of women when it comes to equal rights. I am still for women's rights movement. However, that's only in keeping that we also need advocacy for men's rights. We need a men's rights movement. I'm not saying that there's too many things that women don't have that they need, or rather, this is always going to be a fight. It's always going to be a tug and pull and all of that. So I'm still for it. There are instances where women are mistreated by the system and they need some sort of advocacy that they can report to that's going to fight for them. However, men need it a lot more than women do. I'm not saying let's completely take it away. However, I do think that this is the end of feminism. That in 10 years, 20 years from now, there will be no feminism. Or if there is, it's going to be in very small pockets. I think before that happens, though, we're going to see that feminists are going to be like, oh, yeah, we support men's rights. We always supported men's rights. That's going to start happening. But even then, I think that feminism is just going to go away. Maybe it's wishful thinking. I don't know. But So, thank you for coming to my video today. Said again, like I said, I'm very happy with what Scott Baio has done. He didn't say "just believe me," as this woman seems to have said, as a lot of women seem to say. He's demonstrated, based on her words over the years, that she is lying, that this could not possibly have happened. Men, if you're in a situation with a woman that seems a little suspicious, be sure to take some sort of recording device with you. Be sure to get all of the facts you can. Uh, it's unfortunate that most people can't really prove their innocence. And it's not supposed to be that you have to prove your innocence, it's that your guilt must be proven. Scott Baio got lucky in this instance, though, that he can prove his innocence, as a lot of people cannot. Apparently, Steven Seagal is hiring people to look into these claims as he believes that people were paid to make accusations against him. And if he finds that, then that's going to further prove that he didn't do anything wrong. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but if people are being paid to make these accusations, then no matter if he actually did do it to someone, it's going to be reasonable doubt of whether or not he's actually guilty or not. There's always going to be like, well, we have evidence of other people being paid off. How do we know that this person's not paid off? And it's going to hurt actual victims. Actual victims will not want to come forward because they're not going to be believed, not because of the patriarchy, but because of feminism, because feminism always supports a victim, a self-identified victim, over actual victims. So, anyways, I think that's going to do it for me today. Um, check out the links down below if you want to get the Lovely Ladies calendar. We still have a number of those remaining. Um, any profits that we make from that, though, because a lot of it's going to try to go for the 2019 calendar, some other things. But any profits we make for that goes to veterans helping veterans mentoring veterans, which is a great charity. I know that it also helps women as well, but it does also help men who are veterans. So we have a limited supply left, but if you want one, go get one. Um, I actually have it hanging up on my wall right now. I have it displaying February right now because, well, it'll almost be February. But yeah, we do have these. We are getting them shipped out. I know a few people have been asking when are they going to get them. And we apologize for the delay. Just real life happens. If this was our primary job, we would have gotten this out. But it's just hard sometimes. But we do have all the products. We are getting them out. So you should be getting them soon. But for anyone else who wants one, please get one. We want to really get these out. They feature facts. Um, I'll use Anna Cherry, for example. This is January. It features facts. It features the lovely Anna Cherry. And then we also include special holidays that you don't normally find on a calendar, such as, let's see, well, this past weekend was Fun at Work Day, which is a Sunday, but that's strange. Last week was Beer Can Appreciation Day. So be sure to get a calendar. We've got a lot of lovely ladies. This is all for men's rights. All stop saying also got my links down below. I'm trying to save up for a computer. I get a computer, I can make better videos on YouTube, I can teach classes online as an instructor, I can make more money for myself, get health insurance, make a better life for myself, but it all starts with a computer. So help me get a new computer. It also kind of helps with my day-to-day life right now. Once that Yeah, so donate to my Patreon. Don't want to do Patreon. I also got my PayPal if you just want to directly give me money. That's always appreciated. Or just go and buy my book. Buy my book actually helps me out a lot. It puts me higher on search results every time a book is bought. So, anywho, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you, everyone who's come out, even Matt the troll, who wants to just give me shit. Hey, go ahead and give me shit. I'm not going to censor you. I'll give the wrench so other people can censor you. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. But and also a big thank you to Scott Baio for just coming out and doing what he did. And I know that he did it for himself, but this is going to help a lot of men out there who are getting falsely accused of rape, and is actually going to help a lot of victims out there. I'm hoping that as more and more men come out and demonstrate that they are not guilty, that they're actually innocent, the false rape accusations will go down. So that when people actually come out for sexual assault or rape, they're more likely believed. They're more likely to be taken seriously. Until the false, until then, as the false rapes come out, their validity will always be questioned. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have due process. We definitely should have due process, and it is innocent until proven guilty. But the problem is that until false rape accusations go down, it's always going to be, well, how do we know you're not faking it? It's one thing to investigate someone's claim, it's another thing to just assume that someone is lying automatically because that's what has been demonstrated so much in the past. There's a big difference there. And I don't want to see that happen. Our justice system may not be the greatest thing in the world, but it's far better than many other justice systems. So, anyways, done talking. This is Mad Cat signing off.